Hello, I'm Cheryl McCarthy of the City University of New York. Welcome to One to One. Each week, we address issues of timely and timeless concern with newsmakers and the journalists who report on them, with artists, writers, scientists, educators, social scientists, activists, government leaders. We speak with each one to one. Merle Hoffman can't be pigeonholed into any one of these categories. For years, she has been president and CEO of Choices Women's Medical Center, one of the nation's largest and most comprehensive women's medical facilities. She is also publisher and editor-in-chief of On the Issues magazine online, which has offered an overview of women's struggles and triumphs in areas ranging from reproductive rights, relationships, and rape to health, politics, and sports. And she is author of Intimate Wars, The Life and Times of the Woman Who Brought Abortion from the Back Alley to the Boardroom, published by our very own Feminist Press. I'm delighted to have you here today.
It's a pleasure to be with you.
Merle, there is such a big backlash going on in the country right now against women's reproductive rights. You've got Texas and other states who passed legislation requiring women who want abortions to undergo these sonograms and hear these lectures about their unborn children. You've got Republicans slamming President Obama's requirement that all employers who offer medical insurance to their employees cover contraceptives at no extra cost. And you've got states that have either defunded or are trying to defund Planned Parenthood. And in the midst of all this anti-choice activity, you have just opened a new women's medical center, which, among other services, provides abortion services in Jamaica, Queens.
Correct.
Why? Why now?
Why now? This is the best time. As reproductive rights is under continual and relentless assault, this is the time to stand strong and to move forward. Now, I founded Choices in 1971, which was 2 years before Roe v. Wade.
And 1 year, I guess, after abortion became legal in New York?
Exactly. Abortion was legalized in New York in 1970, and in 1973, Roe v. Wade was the law of the land. So for my 40th anniversary, I decided that I wanted to move the clinic to Jamaica, which has an extraordinary need for our services. And actually, Jamaica has a 35% higher teenage pregnancy rate than the rest of the city. It has problems with their delivery of prenatal care. And I had about 73% of my patient population when I was in Long Island City who lived in Jamaica. So it was almost a natural extension for me to go back there. So at this point, we've opened an 18,000 square foot ambulatory surgery center providing abortions, family planning, gynecology, and prenatal care, because I didn't feel I could call my facility Choices and not operationalize those choices by having not only abortion services, but prenatal care services. So as the country is seeing this extraordinary attack, this relentless attack on reproductive rights, I wanted to expand. And so that's why I went to Jamaica.
Now, the number of abortions in the United States, which peaked in 1980, has been going down, or had been going down. There were about 1.2 million nationwide in 2008, which is the last year I had figures for. Have you experienced a decline in the number of women seeking abortions?
Well, in the 80s, as you said, there was a compilation of factors. One was the demographics. There were a lot of women within the age period that you have a multiplicity of abortions. And that has decreased, yes. So we have seen from, I think in 1980, where we're doing approximately 20,000 abortions a year. This is just at Choices.
In the 80s? In 1980s?
Yes, now we're seeing about 10 to 11,000.
Okay, okay. Now, as you said, Jamaica, Queens, that's a largely African-American community, correct?
There are a lot of African Americans, but there is a multiplicity of ethnicities there. You know, Queens has more ethnic groups than any other borough. I believe it's 176. So yes, we have Hispanics, we have African American women, we have Hindi, Bengali. It's a plethora of ethnicities.
Now, it's interesting to me, and I actually wrote an article about this a few years ago. The African American community is in some ways a very conservative community. They're opposed to same-sex marriage. Many people in the community, particularly the church, consider abortion genocide, and yet Black women get abortions at 5 times the rate of non-Hispanic white women. The rate is very high. Right. Do you have any idea of why that is?
Well, yeah, that rate is high, particularly in urban centers. And when you look at the statistics in places like New York, I did a study which I called Abortionomics, where I looked at the economic impact of the recession on abortion decisions. And understandably so, we found that 73% of women made the decision of abortion for economic reasons. And that minority women, and particularly African American women, feel the recession and the economic downturn stronger than a lot of other people, i.e. white middle-class people. So it would be understandable that with lack of access, with lack of funds, with perhaps living in areas that the Planned Parenthood has been cut or the monies have been defunded, they are unable to prevent unwanted pregnancies. And then when they do get pregnant, they either have to have a compulsory pregnancy or they will go and have abortion. So it is extremely understandable. Then you have the issue of the access to the health care and the fact even in New York that very many women do not have the funds to take care of preventive medical care.
You know, one thing I found was that, I mean, in order to control fertility, childbearing, you really need to have access to, and steady access to, a really good gynecologist. And not just, you know, be going into a clinic where you see one person one time and some other doctor the other time, but to somebody who can stay on top of it and to say, this is the proper kind of contraceptive for you, or we need to change, or this one is not going to work. And
no,
that's an issue.
Oh, it's an issue, okay, but that's also a problem because I, many years ago, began to see what I call iatrogenic pregnancies, which means pregnancies caused by the medical establishment, because women would depend on their physicians to give them directives of what birth control to use. And then they would come into choice as pregnant and say, oh, my doctor told me to go off the pill and use foam. Or, oh, my doctor didn't tell me I had to use another size diaphragm after my birth. So I developed the whole concept of patient power. Now, this was before the internet. This was before our bodies ourselves. So women were totally dependent on the medical system. And frankly, I don't totally trust the medical system to be able to dictate and tell women what is good for them. This is the responsibility of women themselves. They have to look at their lifestyle, their bodies, their sexuality, and determine what works for them.
That's interesting. Have the demographics, now you were saying that your clinic, even in Long Island City, had a lot of women from Jamaica.
Right.
Have the demographics of the women who come to you for abortions, has that changed since you opened the facility in 1971?
I have to say it's stayed mainly the same. You know, we have about a 10% of population of teenagers. We have more African American patients than white or Latino patients. You know, with the differential in the amount of patients, the reasons and the ethnicities have stayed basically the same.
There are about, I think, 87% of the counties in the United States have no abortion providers. Do you see women coming from elsewhere in the country to get abortions that they can't get at home?
Cheryl, it's now 92% have no abortions providers. And yes, we see patients from other states, particularly for late-term abortions. And I gave a press conference at the National Press Club in Washington and was very attacked for saying this, but I firmly believe that there will be and are slave states and free states. And the free states will be states like New York, where women can exercise their constitutional right to have a pregnancy terminated or not, and states like Texas or Dakota, where there are absolutely no abortion providers. So there will be women coming to the free states to access services. And I really want to make that point, that the right to reproductive freedom is a fundamental human and civil right for women. and that without the right to determine when and whether or not we are going to be mothers, our freedoms or our equality stand on brittle glass.
It's been a while, it seems, since we've read about bombings at abortion clinics or any abortion providers, meaning doctors, being murdered. And one doesn't see the Operation Rescue people standing outside abortion clinics with carrying the little casket with the fetus. I don't know if it was a real fetus or not.
That was Baby Elizabeth, yeah.
Okay, you don't see that the way you used to see that, say, in the 1980s, people holding signs calling you murderers. But do you get demonstrators? Has there been any backlash against your facility?
You know, I mean, the first day I opened, and I came in on a Saturday, and there was an extraordinarily violent, visually violent demonstration. They had posters about this high, this wide, with fetal parts and swastikas on them, and the whole business of this is choice, you know, the connection of the Holocaust with women making a decision for abortion. And then, you know, they do that. They compare abortion and reproductive freedom with the Holocaust, and then they compare it with slavery. So I have people outside of choices saying to black women, you are desecrating the legacy of Martin Luther King. You see, so it hasn't changed. They are there. There's certainly
there's a nun who's been praying for you for a long time.
Yes, that's Sister Dorothy. She's been outside of Choices for 15 years. She prays for my soul, and you know, we have small conversations. I always sort of say, well, it can't hurt. I don't know whether it'll. So she's praying. She's been praying for my soul, and gives me books of philosophy because she knows I love to read them.
Okay. We're going to take a short break. Then we'll be back with more with Merle Hoffman, CEO and President of Choices Women's Medical Center, after this message.
Well, I first started skating with my friend. He had an extra board, and then he just gave it to me, and I've been skating ever since. Well, when I don't land a trick and I have my mind set on something and I'm not getting what I want, I just keep going for it until I get it right. My mom, she didn't go to college, so she wants me to experience that whole thing, and so I could end up getting like a good job. I think to get into college, I'll have to be determined. Just like when I want to get a new trick, and skating's helped me realize I've got what it takes.
Welcome back to One to One. I'm Cheryl McCarthy of the City University of New York, and I'm talking with Merle Hoffman, founder, president, and CEO of Choices Women's Medical Center, editor of On the Issues magazine online, and author of Intimate Wars, The Life and Times of the Woman Who Brought Abortion from the Back Alley to the Boardroom, which has recently been published by the Feminist Press. So how did a nice little girl from Queens get into this line of work?
Good question. Yeah, my mother would always ask me the same thing. I started studying to be a concert pianist and felt it was too hermetic. Went to Europe and studied there, but came home and then sort of went through this existential identity crisis, and I decided I would become a social psychologist. So I went to Queens undergraduate and came here to the City University Graduate Center for my graduate work for my PhD, which I never did the dissertation for. At the time...
Maybe now we got you here today, they'll grab you and say, finish your dissertation.
Please, too much on my plate. But Choices is my dissertation, okay? That's my operational dissertation. At any rate, I had to take 3 jobs to put myself through school. One of them was with a physician in Queens who was part of HIP, the health insurance plan, who was very progressive. And I was working as a medical assistant when the abortion law changed in New York. And he and a colleague of his wanted to provide abortion services to HIP subscribers, female subscribers. So he started a very small service in Flushing, Queens, and asked me if I would be interested, and I was totally apolitical. I really wasn't following this. I wasn't interested in it. I was either practicing or reading philosophy or studying psychology. And I said, sure, because, I always love adventure and risk, and this seemed something totally new in the world. And then the first patient that came to me was what motivated me and catalyzed me for my life's work. She came from New Jersey because abortion was still illegal in New Jersey. She was white, she was married, and she had one child. And she couldn't afford another child. And she came to Flushing, and somebody said, go counsel her, and there was no such thing as abortion counseling because abortion was an entirely new world. I mean, you have to think about it. One day abortion is a crime, a sin, a terrible thing, and the next day women are lining up for services,
right,
for legal. So it was sort of a different planet. And here I was only 25 years old, and I think all of these psychological theories that I thought about, and then I just sat down and I spoke to her, and they went out of my mind, and it became basically one woman speaking to another, and I held her hand during her abortion, and her hand became, in that moment, a catalytic event, and that's what started my entire career.
Now, you've been public with the fact that you had an abortion yourself.
I had an abortion when I was 32 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I was married at the time, but I felt that I could not be the kind of mother that I wanted to be, so I made the decision to have an abortion. And when I was 58, I woke up one morning and I said, now I'm ready, and that took me to Siberia twice.
To adopt?
Yes, a little girl that I call Sasharina, who is the love of my life.
Never too late.
Yeah, well, yes.
Well, it can be too late, but it wasn't too late for you.
It wasn't too late for me, and the adoption decision absolutely reinforced and committed me so much more deeply to this reproductive rights struggle, reproductive justice struggle, because, I mean, that's what it is. Motherhood becomes that wonderful thing when you are ready.
Right. Now, at Choices, I imagine you sometimes get women who want to adhere to their religious beliefs, which are against abortion, but the reality for them is that they can't cope with having a child or another child at that particular time. Do you have a situation like that where these women are trying to work that out with you, and you have counselors who are trying to work it out with them?
We have counselors, actually very, very highly trained social workers and counselors to speak with everyone who chooses it prior to their procedures. And there are women that have religious conflicts. And these sometimes can be worked through within our counseling session, and if not, there are referrals to other organizations like Faith Aloud or Catholics for Free Choice, which can particularize that struggle within that person's religious educational concepts. But aside from the religious problems, there is a lot of guilt and a lot of shame, which we try and deal with very positively, in the sense of having women try to understand that their decision is a moral decision. The decision to have an abortion is a very moral choice, and it's a choice made within each individual's heart, an individual's mind. And that's the crux, you see. The abortion decision will be made, whether it's legal or whether it's not legal. Women throughout history will try to end pregnancies that they can't take care of. The question is, will it be legal? Will they be able to do that and carry on and care for their families, or will they die or be butchered in the process? And I want to,
or will they be shamed in the process, the way Texas and some other states are trying
that's
to do?
what I want to talk. Yeah, I mean, there's this feeling that if you decide you are not going to allow the life within you to continue because of your moral choices within your life and your family, then you're a bad mother or a bad girl. I remember a 19-year-old patient who came into me and said, this is my first abortion, and the mother in me wanted so much to have it, but the other part knew it was impossible. and there's this mother and this other mother.
Right.
But abortion is a mother's act. Every 1 out of 3 women will make the decision of abortion in this country by the time they are 45 years old. When they make that decision, they are mothers. And I'm not talking only about being the mother of that particular pregnancy, but very many of them have other children. So I think that abortion has to be reclaimed as that, as a mother's act.
And it's a complicated decision. You know, some people, the so-called pro-lifers, you know, claim, oh, abortion on demand, just something that you just do cavalierly without thought, but it's always a complex decision.
Oh, sure. People wake up on a Saturday morning and say, "Whoops, pregnant. I think I'll go to choices." You know, I mean,
Right.
it's a
not.
diminishment. It's a
Right.
diminution of women's agency, women's moral
Right.
agency, and that's so you have to have the court or the doctors or the church tell you if and when and how you can have an abortion.
Right. I assume that contraceptive counseling is a big part of the services that you offer. There seem to be a whole lot more contraceptive products on the market now. Do you have a sense of which ones are the most popular?
No, but well, it depends, and I call the decision an ESP decision: effectiveness, safety, and personality. Each woman, and that's why I say a doctor can't dictate what's best for you. If the doctor said use a diaphragm and you keep it in your drawer, I mean, what good is that? If they say, well, take pills and you're not good about remembering or you don't like to take them, that's going to be a problem too. So yes, there have been some new methods, Depo-Provera, which is sometimes popular with young women who don't want to continue to come back or take pills. You have IUDs, which have become popular again. But there are problems with each and every one of these methods, and each and every one of them is not perfect. So
Now, I know that there's a birth control pill. In the beginning, it was called Seasonal. I think now it's called something different, where it's a birth control pill where allows you to have only 4 menstrual periods a year, which I think is the best discovery in women's lives since I don't know what.
I don't see that as a very popular, not with my
Not many people
population.
using it, really?
Not with my population.
Really?
But then, you know, that may be having to do with the demographics.
Interesting.
There are a lot more women who are now using RU486, which is the chemical abortion. You know,
Okay.
they're deciding for that. You know, whenever they start to talk about a male contraception, a lot of the women said, well, I don't know whether I trust any man who said they took
Although
them.
I think women, I think you should have a male contraceptive so that men can protect themselves from unwanted pregnancies. you know, because, you know, sometimes they
Yeah.
just get pulled into
They
it.
just sort of protect themselves from paying for pregnancy.
Right.
What they protect themselves pretty well from.
The
You know,
funding,
child support.
The funding for your facility, is it totally private? Is there any
It's
kind
totally
of...
private.
Okay.
And, you know, I'm very comfortable with that. I don't have to go out and raise money. I don't have to depend on government funding or the politics of that. Yes, it's private. We accept all insurances and Medicaid, so that's... I've survived on the good work and the women who come to me.
What if Mitt Romney gets elected in November? Are you going to
But, my God, I'm going
shoot yourself in the head? What is going to happen?
Oh, no. I wouldn't take that pleasure away from all my enemies. No, I'm not shooting myself. I'm personally going to continue to fight and to struggle and stand strong. I think we're going to have a lot of challenges. There's going to be more obstructionist laws, especially if the Congress goes Republican. It's going to be very difficult for a lot of women. So I do hope that people get activated within this election cycle.
But there are some, you know, there is some good news. We talked about the teenage pregnancy has been on the decline since the 90s. I think primarily because more teenagers are using birth control and using effective, you know, forms of birth control. And as you said, the overall number of abortions has been declining, which is all a good thing. So
yeah, but we don't know the number of women who have had pregnancies and children that they don't want to because they haven't been able to access services. The only good thing in my mind is when every woman will be able to make the decision in safety and within the confines of her conscience and her own moral judgments and not have the government involved. You know, they want small government. Romney wants to make it small enough to fit into a woman's uterus.
Right.
I don't want them there.
Right.
So whatever their decisions are,
Right.
that's fine for
Right.
me.
So clearly, there's some challenges ahead. You know, whoever is elected president,
I
they're
think
going
so.
to be.
I think so.
We're out of time, and you know, unfortunately, we're not going to be able to discuss on theissuesmagazine.com, but you can go online and read it for yourself. I want to thank Merle Hoffman,
Thank you.
the founder, president, and CEO of Choices Women's Medical Center, and author of Intimate Wars: The Life and Times of the Woman Who Brought Abortion from the Back Alley to the Boardroom. And if that wasn't enough, she's publisher and editor-in-chief of On the Issues magazine. For the City University and for One to One, I'm Cheryl McCarthy. If there are any people you'd like to hear from or topics you'd like us to explore, please let us know. You can write to me at CUNY TV, 365 Fifth Avenue, New York, New York, 10016, or you can go to the website at cuny.tv and click on Contact Us. I look forward to hearing from you.